Lives of billions of people around the world are being affected because of human-induced climate change. And the damage that we have done to the planet today is almost irreversible. And the rise in weather and climate extremes are so severe that it has pushed humans beyond their ability to adapt. These are the latest findings of the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that has come up with an alarming report. The report states that approximately 3.3 to 3.6 billion people live in contexts that are highly vulnerable to climate change. Climate change impacts and risks are becoming increasingly complex and more difficult to manage. How severe are these findings? The UN Secretary General in a recent address has said that he has seen many reports in his entire life, but nothing as alarming as this. He calls it criminal. He says the way the climate leadership across the world has abdicated leadership is nothing but criminal.
I've seen many scientific reports in my time, but nothing like this. Nearly half of humanity is living in the danger zone now. Many ecosystems are at the point of no return now. Unchecked carbon pollution is forcing the world's most vulnerable on a frog march to destruction now. The facts are undeniable. This abdication of leadership is criminal.
The IPCC report that everyone is talking about is a result of an exhaustive study on climate change. 270 authors from 67 countries, along with 675 contributing authors, had conducted this study. That involves over 34,000 cited references and a total of 62,418 experts who commented on this report. So what does this study say? The report states that many of the impacts of global warming are now simply irreversible. The study has found that our plants and animals are facing mass mortalities. Millions of people are facing acute food and water insecurity because of climate change. In 2015, in the Paris Agreement, almost 200 countries pledged to take steps to reduce the global average surface temperatures from 2 degrees Celsius to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. But the latest study states that there is at least a greater than 50% likelihood that global warming will reach or exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius in the near term, even for the very low greenhouse gas emission scenario. This is extremely alarming because human activities have already caused a global warming of about 1 degree Celsius. If it reaches 1.5 degrees Celsius, as expected, amongst other damages and destructions, roughly 8% of the world's farmland will become unsuitable for food growth. If it reaches 2 degrees Celsius, amongst other things, 800 million to 3 billion people across the planet could face chronic water scarcity. And once this touches 3 degrees Celsius, which is where we are heading at this rate, 3 degrees would mean total disaster. Today, we are almost halfway there.
We have already seen that 40% of the global population have been exposed to major weather-related disasters. That's flooding, drought and tropical storms especially. And this number is going to grow until the end of this century because of the impacts of climate change. It's likely that practically all of the human beings on the planet will face major disasters by the end of this century. So the poorest countries are typically most vulnerable, but no country is immune.
Now, what does this study mean for Asia and for India? The report states that climate change will uproot millions in Asia. It states that India is one of the most vulnerable countries that will face dire consequences because of climate change. Climate change is a global challenge that requires local solutions. While countries must find local solutions to fight climate change, the United Nations has said that the G20 must lead the way or humanity will pay an even more tragic price. To sum the seriousness of the situation, the UN has said half measures are no longer an option. Any more delay now means death.